again and being successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will keep questions until the question session, which will take place after the next speaker. Thank you, Chris. I think we got a number of lessons from your presentation, and certainly taught for how we approach areas like design and validation of your programs involving industry, career ladders, and seeking credit from other institutions for your programs, which is something that we can learn from in Jordan. And engaging industry, of course, in teaching and training, critical, that you bring industry into the classroom as well as bringing the students out to industry. And of course, scholarships and sponsorship, and how you use scholarships and sponsorship to give opportunities to young students to get onto the career ladder. We thank you very much indeed, Chris, for sharing. We know you'll have an opportunity to discuss, and as we go even into lunch, you can join our colleagues here and explain further your experiences. Without further ado, we move on to the next session and the next presenter, Dr. Larry Yu, who will speak on innovative partnerships between linking tourism and hospitality education providers and business organizations in a mutual effort for talent development and acquisition. Dr. Larry is certainly not new to Jordan. He's run an Educate the Educators program, and he's met many of the professors and trainers and teachers previously last year. We got great reports from Larry's programs that are run. Larry is a professor of management and tourism studies in the School of Business at George Washington University. He has 30 years of experience in education. He's an author and a publisher, and he'll tell you about the books he's authored. He's also a Fulbright scholar, and he's also a visiting professor at Shanghai University in China. It was a very busy life, and we're delighted to invite Larry back again. Larry, we look forward to listening to your presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joe, for your kind words, and also like to thank the host of this conference, USAID Sharjah Office, Tourism Development Project, and also University of Jordan, and also our new a sister university in Jordan. We signed a collaborative agreement early in the year. Our president was here, and so I just so happy to be here back again. And I saw many familiar faces, and I'd like to catch up with you throughout the day. Okay, what I'm going to share with you is basically my observations, my experience in higher education, in collaborations with the industry, and to summarize what's going on around the world. Some of the practices I think very unique and innovative, I'd like to share with you, and I think it's really a good extension of my colleague, Professor Kristen Lemmer just presented some of the practical ideas I'd like to share with the industry and also the university. And so since I'm really do not talk from a specific organizational standpoint, and so I'm free to draw different examples from all over the world. So with that, I will just start my topic on global trends in university and industry strategic alliance. Now, the importance of this alliance being mentioned by the previous speakers, and so I just want to highlight 2 points. The relevance and the quality of tourism education really depend on the broad range of stakeholders. We all have interest in this tourism education, and particularly including the university and the industry. And secondly, university and industry alliance in education is critical to educating graduates who meet university competency requirements. And Professor Lemerle articulated so well earlier, university has its own standards for educating students. However, on the other hand, an industry also has its expectations of our graduates who can be competent and to perform the various functions in the airline industry, in travel agencies, and also in hotels and other tourism organizations. So with that in mind, there are different approaches to this strategic alliance. They can be really summarized in 3 different approaches. The first is the comfortable distance approach. The second is the cooperative approach. And thirdly, the strategic alliance approach. So I'm going to go through the 3 of those different approaches and go quickly over the first 2, and what I really like to focus on, elaborate, is the third one, the strategic alliance approach. Okay, the first comfortable distance approach, I like to use a statement I actually jotted down when I was in Shanghai in 2006, attending APATIC, they called Asia Pacific Travel and Tourism Educators Forum. Professor Kumar from India, he stated, industry accuses the education system for not producing what is required, and education system comes with a counter charge that industry does not spell out what is required. So we have a problem here. This is what the previous presenters described, a gap between the education system and the industry. So basically we're accusing each other for not doing our job. Okay? And so this approach is common in China, in India, in many other countries. So the industry is very critical. It's very critical about education, for we are really not educate our students. And the gap and the difference is really between the student perceptions of the industry and the reality of the industry. And so this is common in many other countries. Students thought that we'll get into this GM position in a short order when I graduate. And the glamour of the industry, the excitement of the industry, without knowing the reality of the industry. And so once you get into the industry, the turnover rate is high. And this is particularly in China. The tourism graduate actually turnover in the industry is very high, as I will highlight a little bit later. And so that's the gap between the industry and the education. And so this is the so-called the comfortable distant approach. I do my things, you do your things. And so there's a gap. And then secondly, the cooperative approach. We develop agreement. We identify some projects we will do, and which will be beneficial to both parties, the academic program and the industry. Typically, those programs are internships, field trips. We take the students to visit a hotel, to visit the business organization, or we invite some guest lecturers to give lectures to the students. So these are some of the typical cooperative kind of approach. However, insufficient incentives for continuous innovations, for new practices, or even refining established practices, have been identified with many of those cooperative agreements. Basically, no innovation and no further commitment to take the relationship to the next level. So this comes to this strategic alliance approach. I've been thinking this strategic alliance approach, I think it really boils down to three very important dimensions. One is long-term, requires 100% commitment from both parties. Secondly, because of this commitment, we have to find new ways of doing things, innovations. And thirdly, we have to be adaptable to the changing needs of the education and the industry. So with that, I'm going to talk to you about some of the practices from around the world. Bear in mind, some of those may not be applicable to Jordan right away. But my goal is, by the end of the day, if I can disseminate those knowledge, those ideas, if our industry and our education can pick up some of those ideas and start from somewhere, and that'd be just wonderful. Okay, so develop innovative and sustainable collaborations, and constant review and modify established practices to meet the changing needs of the industry and the education require high level of commitment by both parties for long-term success. And then this is very important, create value in tourism education and the benefits to both parties, and actually to all the stakeholders, students, families, and the civil society. So this is our goal. So I'd like to start with some of the practices. First, I'd like to show two strategic partners you see here. Look at their titles. Just by looking at the title of Mr. Carl Cartlow, what does it say? His title is Manager of University Relations and Talent Acquisition for Marriott International. By the way, he is the manager of college recruitment for Marriott International, in charge of the Mid-Atlantic region of the US. So he works with us directly. And so we know Carl very well. He comes to campus to visit numerous times a year. His title reflects the commitment of the organization to build a relationship with the university, to recruit best talent they can find from the educational institutions. And then on the other hand, look at Professor Riddell, his title. He is Director of Industry Relations and Executive Education. So he is the counterpart of Mr. Carl Cartlow in Temple University, School of Tourism and Hospitality Management. So you have a counterpart in the institution. So this is really, just following up what the previous speakers talk about, the commitment, the engagement. From a strategic standpoint, you have to be 100% on each part in order to build this strategic alliance. And then I want to show you from the point of our academic leader, Dr. John Bowen, the Dean of Conrad Hilton College in University of Houston. You probably all know, one of the large hospitality schools in the US. Look at what he said. Recruiters today invest a lot in people when they first hire them. So they want to reduce the risk as much as possible and get a good return on their investment. Okay? So they are looking for students who are passionate about the industry and have a good idea of what they want to do. This is very critical. And so we have to, as educators, we also have to sit back and think from the industry perspective in order to build this long-term relationship and a strategic commitment. And so industry looks for relevant core curriculum. We heard loud and clear earlier. And tourism curriculum should be validated by industry experts. And so I'm not going to elaborate on the advisory board my colleagues mentioned earlier, and those are very critical. Have industry play a role in the education. And so the recruiters in the US, they are very specific. We are told we have to integrate work experience with academic component of education. So we're not talking about internships. Actually, in our curriculum, we have to integrate a certain component of work experience. And Chris just mentioned, they've been doing so well in their culinary education and integrated throughout their curriculum in culinary education. The recruiter will like to go to a campus that have certain operational experience for their students. And so many of the US schools and other hospitality schools around the world have been doing that. I just want to mention this Cafe Laura on the campus of Penn State University, another big hotel school program in the US. Very popular. It's a partnership between the university and the hotel school. It's a food service establishment, and the students run the whole place. And the recruiters just love to recruit those students, have a wonderful experience through this practice, and it's built into their curriculum. And so that's one example. And then other example, one main criticism of the tourism education by the industry is that there's a perceptual gap between graduate perceptions and the reality of the industry. I mentioned that earlier, okay? So the gap leads to high turnover and presents a challenge for employee retention. That's the HR, that's the talent acquisition manager's challenge, to develop the employee loyalty in their organization. And so I have an example actually dealing with this particular issue. But I first like to quote Mr. Isidore Sharp. I know, probably we all know Mr. Sharp, former CEO, founder of Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts. And I'll quote him: "Competence we can teach, attitude is ingrained." Okay? Because of this, look at what Hong Kong Polytechnic University is doing. It's amazing. They really went out their way to recruit the best students with the right attitude. They involve over 100 industry partners to conduct interviews for admission. 3 industry panel interview a student, a shortlisted student, for 15 minutes, just to find out if there's a right fit up front. The attitude, the passion for the industry. And so that's what the Hong Kong Polytechnic is doing. I know some of the practice is not applicable here, but just some ideas, some of the innovative practices our colleagues doing around the world. And that relationship management is very critical in terms of developing this strategic partnership, university. And so universities around the world recognize industry contributions. Okay, so we try to change that, keeping a comfortable distance position. Now we need to work together. And so these are some of the common practice awards given to tourism business organizations. Highlight this hotel helping us with internships, and a CEO recognition, CEO of the Year. And this is from Penn State again, Steve Rushmore, and those of you in hotel real estate, in hotel market analysis, we all know Steve, who founds his company called Hospitality Valuation Services. Does all the valuations for hotels. And so he is recognized as CEO of the Year by Penn State University Hotel School. And most of the hotel programs recognize industry leaders, industry organizations for their contribution for our education. An industry appreciation event students put up to invite the industry donors, organizations to be part of this celebration. So this is very important. It's a long-term commitment and the relationship building. Okay, so I'm just quickly wrap up. A strategic approach, there's another new trend, campus branding by companies to connect with students. Companies actually brand their company on campuses. Hyatt hotels doing a student ambassador program. There's a picture. They identify some students, and so they are the advocates for the organization, for the hotel. And so other students have questions, interest about Hyatt, to go to those ambassadors. And the college recruiters blogs, they put out the blogs, students will read about the different leadership issues, different management issues, company endowment, professorship facilities, student scholarships, Chris mentioned earlier, and information sessions and the career fairs. These all efforts, companies try to brand their company on campus to get to the minds of the students who will work with them in the future. And then another practice we've been doing, we found it very beneficial to both parties, is the industry-driven, business-driven research projects. We do cases and deal with a particular issue or challenge faced by a tourism organization. And the students will present the recommendations. And a panel of 7 judges will judge the case competition. And so get the industry fully involved. And so we found it very beneficial for both parties. And Kristen mentioned earlier, faculty internship. To me, it's very important because some of our faculty may not come directly from the hospitality industry. So enhance the quality of education by improving faculty, by providing faculty an opportunity to learn. And so some of the major tourism organizations are doing this, offer internships for faculty, and they're offered in the summer, and typically range from 1 to 2 weeks, shadow the different managers and going through the different area operations. And so the importance of faculty education and improvement. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will also have to be able to adapt to the changes facing the industry. In our program, in the last few years, we've been receiving more and more Chinese students' applications and admissions. However, placing those students has become an issue. And so we've been working with Marriott International Hilton hotels to develop a new program to have those international students, after their graduation, stay in the US for 1 year for practical training, and then they will be transferred back to their home country. And so we just started this program this year. And so these are the innovative ideas. I mean, you have to be able to adapt to the changes in education and also in the market needs. And then I don't have time to elaborate. I think Intercontinental does a very good program in academic program and working with the institutions of tourism management in local and localities, and to develop a very good training programs in China. If you're interested, you can really look into their practice. They already signed up 25 partners, training 2,000 students already. And Intercom IHG in China needs a lot of talents. Like they needed 20,000 talents working for them in the next few years. And so this is critical need for HR talent development. And so that's another very successful example. I just didn't have time to get into the details, but you have the slides and you can also look them up online. Very good practice. And so again, to sum up, 3 points for the strategic alliance approach: long-term commitment, innovative ideas, and then able to adapt to changes in education, in labor market. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Larry, indeed. I'm sorry for putting you under some time constraints here. It's all right. But it's so interesting, so interesting. Larry, I think, there was two messages you gave in your presentation that was, that stuck in my mind, and certainly I think in many, passion. And that is the passion of the students, which of course comes from the passion of the professors and the teachers and trainers that develop that passion within that student, and you can feel it. And of course, if that isn't in your institution, then the student is not going to feel that passion. And the second thing is, of course, attitude. Most important, that young students and graduates who are coming out of institutions have the right attitude towards first working, going to the workplace, but then about their industry and how they feel. I thank you very much indeed, Chris and Larry, for sharing your great experiences. I think you will all agree that we've had a wide scope. Certainly Chris gave us very much the perspective of culinary arts in New York, in California, Italy. Larry shared with us his experiences in China, India and the US, and of course bringing us right through all those examples, which really gives us a lot of food for thought and a lot of opportunity for discussion. Now I'm going to be really mean and I'm going to break the rules, because I'm not going to have an open forum. I'm not going to have questions for Chris and Larry, because we will have an opportunity to have lunch, and you will have an opportunity to sit with them at their specific tables, and you can grill them on their approaches, and that way you get lunch on time, and you get an opportunity also to have some in-depth discussion with both Larry and with Christopher. Rami Tawil, who is sitting right here on my left-hand side, is making a report on the session. So he will make the notes, which will be produced up, become part of the report for this conference, but also some of the discussion point in the later afternoon. So Rami, we really appreciate your efforts, and we thank you very much. You're always a good partner to us in representing Philadelphia University. Finally, one point was very important. In the afternoon session, after lunch, we have some breakout sessions. We have 4 breakout sessions. And we would ask you to decide, once the next session is over, to decide which one of the breakout sessions you wish to join. And we would tell you the location, the rooms, but the rooms are joining us here, that you can go and participate in the breakout sessions, which of course will be chaired by Christopher, by Larry and Kristen, and Don will be here as well, and I think Faris is also helping out in one of the breakout sessions, so we'll have an opportunity to discuss that. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to Ziad going into session 3. We're not going to take a coffee break. I'm also not going to give you another coffee break, because what we'll do is we'll pick up a little bit of time this morning, and we can also have lunch on time. Is that fair? Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Larry. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Now I have to invite Her Excellency for what is
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're welcome to the 3rd session of this workshop today. The first speaker will be Dr. Tony Lennon. He's from Ireland. He holds a PhD degree in business management. He has 2 master's degrees, and he published books and academic papers on tourism. He worked on many projects, and some of them are key projects in Jordan, as educator since 2005, and he is a project leader for the new initiative, that you will be talking about today. I'm sorry, I had to give a short description about our speaker because it's not there in your book. You're welcome, Dr. Lenanen, please. The floor is yours. We have 15 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Halla. What I would like to do in the presentation today is again further explore some opportunities for alliances between industry and education. And as the room of full of delegates here today are a mix of education and industry, I suppose it would be my wish that you leave here today, if you're in education, with a definite plan, an action plan to say that you are going to develop